Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely, and with me today is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, also host of RT's talk show Crosstalk. Well, yesterday was a unhappy day in Washington. The day was supposed to be the day on which President-elect Biden's victory was supposed to be sealed because it was the day on which Congress certified the Electoral College. It was also the day on which President Trump staked, his last hope for changing the outcome of the 2020 election. A large crowd of Trump supporters arrived in Washington to make their feelings known to the members of Congress as they voted. They listened first to a speech by President Trump in which he recited yet again all of the malfeasances during the election. And then they went to Capitol Hill, where Congress was supposed to be certifying the electors. What happened then remains shrouded in mystery, because somehow this really peaceful crowd, very substantial crowd, something like 500,000 were there, transformed itself, and then some people got into the Capitol building. And then, the debate was called off, and the TV the news everywhere was showing crowds of people milling around the Capitol building. Eventually, things got back to normal, and Congress resumed the certification. Now, of course, hysteria in the media prevails. Wild, incendiary language. Hillary Clinton has called the people yesterday domestic terrorists. The media referring to it as a mob, coup plotters, and so on. So a couple of things are obvious right away. In the first place, this is nothing unusual. I mean, people remember the Kavanaugh hearings. Exactly the same thing happened during the Kavanaugh hearings. Large crowds of protesters entered the Capitol building, occupied the offices of senators, accosted senators in the hallways, tried to intimidate them into voting in a certain way against Kavanaugh. So there's nothing unusual. 2011, the Capitol building in Wisconsin was occupied for a month. Again, the media were perfectly happy with all of that. Second of all, President Trump did not call upon anyone to use violence, to break into any buildings or anything of the sort. He just gave a recitation of his familiar grievances about the election. And third, you have to say that it really isn't surprising that when all means of protest and all means of challenging an election outcome have been blocked, that people feel frustrated.
That's right.
Now, there's no excuse for violence, and to be honest, there really wasn't very much violence. I mean, we see the paintings are all intact. No one damaged a single painting. No one damaged the statue. The one act of violence that did take place, which was the tragic death of a young woman, was the result of a police officer shooting at this young woman. Quite why lethal force was justified in those circumstances against the young woman? How was she threatening anyone's life? Again, the media don't seem to care. It's just like they feel that she got what she deserved. However, the point remains that it was the Supreme Court that really failed the country. They had an opportunity to weigh in on this election one way or the other. They could have decided and shown the people who are angry, frustrated, enraged about this election, and to show them, either your anger is unjustified or it is justified. And they could have ruled. And instead, they made the cowardly decision. We talked about it in several of our podcasts. They just simply pumped it. Nothing to do with us. Hey, you go settle this among yourselves. Well, that's what happens. People are frustrated. They get angry, and unfortunate things happen. All right, Peter, what's your take?
Well, good summation as usual here. Obviously, I want to say off the top, violence only begets violence. So it's just abhorrent that there's a small number of people that were doing that. Okay. However, and of course, the loss of that woman's life. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, it was a law officer that fired his gun. We don't know any of the circumstances. If you watch some of the evening programs on Fox, there were some people that were there to cover it more in a video way, had contact with her slightly before. They were just as befuddled as we are about why she would fall victim of such a terrible thing. A veteran herself, a mother. We need an explanation for that, and someone has to be held accountable, obviously, okay? However, I think your introduction is very balanced, because what we saw in 2020 over and over and over again was the normalization of political violence, okay? I mean, how CNN and MSNBC and the rest of them could be surprised, okay? Also, what we have here, again, commenting on your summation, is that because there has been no recourse to the grievances that many have about this election, we have the institutionalization of corruption now, okay? There's nothing wrong with asking questions. I used to be a university professor, and everyone knows the phrase, the only stupid question is the only question that's never asked, okay? So even if it's, way out there, it's important to you, you're a voter, if you feel that your vote has been voided, then you have a right to speak up. And I don't care how silly it sounds, okay? Speak up. A lot of people are speaking up, okay? And it's something like, depending on the polls, something like 83% of voting Republicans feel that this election was, something was very off about it, okay? There's a lot of different words you can use, rigged or fixed, whatever one you want to pick, but they all fall under the rubric of something went wrong, okay? And there are mechanisms to deal with that, and they didn't get much traction. And that is a tragedy I think we'll all regret moving forward here.
Absolutely.
Now what we have is, now more than ever before, we have disparate narratives, okay? And what do I mean by that? There's going to be a lore built around all of this here. Number one, that Trump supporters were most likely, in my opinion, and looking what I can see from my very far away perch, watching cable news, is that it looks very much like to me that Antifa infiltrated this crowd of people. If you look at the footage very, very carefully, and I'm sure a lot more is going to come out, a lot of the people that were protesting that even got to the Capitol were older people. But the people that were committing the violence look to me, okay, I wear glasses, look to me to be a lot younger, okay? And usually using the typical knee pads, backpacks, ropes, the stuff that we saw all through the US during all the violence prior to the election, during the COVID crisis. And what we have now, this death of this woman, she's going to be a martyr for different reasons for different people. It's going to be very interesting what happens there. And worst of all, at the end of the day, obviously loss of life here is completely mystifying and tragic. That I want to know more about it. We all should. But this is going to be used as an excuse to crack down on rights even more, particularly the rights of some people, okay? We've seen this Trump Accountability Project. We've heard this, these kind of reconciliation committees a la apartheid South Africa. That's only going to pick up steam, George. Now it's going to pick up steam because they have their videos, okay? This is insurrection, this is treason. Well, what do you think the mainstream media and the establishment did for years, okay? They did that, okay? And the cherry on the top of all this, as we speak, maybe something has changed. Trump has been banned from Twitter, or at least his account has been frozen. Okay, they've been doing this for a long time to do that. Okay,
Yes.
so this is a really tragic event, a tragic situation. But the first 2 points that I brought up, I think we have to really keep a close eye on moving forward, is the normalization of political violence and the institution of corruption. I mean, we have these institutions. If you have a grievance, you have a right of recourse. It didn't happen. Okay. And don't tell me, and I'm really tired of people telling me that this is all frivolous and all made up. No, there's just way too many things. And maybe they all can be explained. I'm perfectly willing to accept that possibility. Please, I am. I'm open-minded. But don't slam the door in my face and say you're a silly little child. Don't believe your lying eyes. Okay, you can't run a civil society that way. And I guess maybe the summation of our entire conversation. And you know what we saw yesterday, George? We saw the elites protecting themselves. Okay, the hell with the electorate, the hell with the laws, hell with the whole idea and almost kind of messianic American idea about democracy. It's nothing. There's nothing messianic about it anymore.
Well, that's exactly. Well, there's nothing really about democracy here, because of course, if you take the idea of democracy seriously, then you would indeed address the grievances of those who say that my vote didn't count, that my vote was diluted by tens of thousands of illegal votes. And so when you have no means of recourse, because look, the election was on November the 3rd. We're now 2 months on, and people have made a variety of attempts to challenge the results, and they've all failed. And why have they failed? Not on the substance. They've all failed on procedural grounds, in which we have judges who come up with all kinds of frivolous reasons not to hear the grievances. And of course, the cherry on the cake, as you would put it, was the Supreme Court that I think 4 times refused to get involved in this election. Well, that's its job. Its job is to adjudicate the most contentious issues within a republic. It's not its job to pontificate about marriage. That's not its job. It has no more qualifications to speak about marriage than you or I or anyone else. But that's what they would prefer to do. They would much rather talk about those things than anything that actually is important, because hey, that's dangerous. That get yourself into trouble doing that. And so what happens then? Well, you suddenly you have no means of recourse. And as you say, the media response is just shut up and accept it and get lost. I mean, we don't care about you. You're just one of the great deplorables, the great unwashed, and put a mask on and don't go out and party. Well, there's only so much that people can take, and unfortunately, that we're in this the worst possible situation in which, as you say, they're going to now start throwing people off Twitter. They're going to demand all sorts of additional legal measures. I mean, with Hillary Clinton talking about domestic terrorism and such nonsense. But yeah, I mean, in a way, this was always a predictable outcome of everything that's been going on in 2020. I mean, from the riots of the summer to the whole mask mandates and all the lockdowns and all the restrictions.
Yeah, well, I keep hearing from some on the left, it's time for reconciliation. After all, we got what we wanted, okay? After all, we have the White House, we have the Senate, and now we have the House of Representatives, and now we have the Senate. Now, it's time to talk. No, but it's kind of very reminiscent of what JFK had to say after he met Khrushchev. I think it was in Vienna, and he said that he described Khrushchev this way: he said, "What is yours is what is mine, and what is yours is negotiable." And that's the kind of position that we've found ourselves in right now. And you have to have the other side or other sides be taken seriously and given credence in the public square. If you don't do that, and a la Twitter, okay, just shut it off, That is making things far, far worse. And what we have now is that you're going to have tens of millions of people saying, I have no recourse. It's not my government. They're not representing me. And, the kind of civil disobedience that we could see, even to the point of, why should I pay taxes? Okay. Why should I do that? Okay. I mean, we're going down a path that's almost impossible to get out of. Okay. And obviously politics does play a role in all of this. Okay. Calmer heads are going to be, there's going to be a chilling effect for them to actually speak up, because you got to stay with the tribe. And it's the liberal media that has made us into tribes more than anyone else. They're the ones that divide us over and over and over again. And if you think Donald Trump is a racist, then why did so many minorities vote for him? And just my own personal observation, we've watched Donald Trump for decades in one form or another. He's always with celebrities, he's with the Hollywood types, he's with the rich and famous. And you know what, everybody? There's a lot of diversity, to use liberal language, in those groups, okay? I mean, I remember seeing a picture of him shaking hands with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, okay, with big smiles on their face, okay? Right. So, there is a divide. And there's the huge divide is class. It's the inequality that neoliberalism has created. And this is what it's all about. But no, what they want to do, it's all about MAGA. Okay, well, this is a symptom of what has gone wrong for so many decades, for so many people. And I'm talking about tens of millions of people, up to 100 million people if you look at it. Okay, so what the liberal media described, it's not describing what really afflicts the country, and they're not remotely interested in seeing how to resolve these differences. You know what, George, they do want a purity test. They want this purity test now. Everyone has to be purified, okay, from what Trump did, okay, and his willing followers, okay. That's the path. That's the trajectory, and we're on it right now.
Well, I think so, and I think that what's really going to happen now is that elites who are very worried about what Trump is going to do out of office, and the movement that he would organize as a populist movement, a third party movement, whatever, a populist movement within the Republican Party. They are very worried about that. And so I would expect a variety of legal actions to be taken against him. Certainly civil actions against involving taxes and everything else to do with his business interests. But more seriously, it's possible that they're going to try to use criminal law against him, which is to try to suggest that he's involved in sedition, that he's inciting violence, that he is plotting a coup. And kind of what happens in what third world countries, when you have a political leader that elites don't like, you use the criminal law against them. That's and right. Then tied up in the criminal justice system. So that's why what Twitter did is kind of the first step. The next step will be how do we use the criminal legal system against him? And I think it's very, very important is to see whom does the elite fear most. They obviously don't fear Black Lives Matter. They pour money at them. Hey, here's another 500 million. Hey, here's some more money for you. Do what you want with it. We don't care what you do. Just spend the money as you want. Goldman Sachs is behind you. All of the Walmart is behind you. These people, they are afraid of, because these are serious people. There's big numbers behind them. These are the masses, and it is clear that that's what they're ready for. That one of these days, these people are going to figure out this system really doesn't work for us. We're not doing well out of this system, and they have numbers and they have will. And so you can see, whom does the elite fear most? MAGA or Black Lives Matter?
What they're doing, George, is turning Trump into Mandela.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're turning. I mean, I watched this, not all of it. I watched a good part of Trump's speech. He wasn't inciting anyone. He went through his litany of grievances, as we all expected. Okay, but And then at some point in the day, he's told everyone to go home to the ones you love, or something like that. To that effect here. So this constantly, you know what I'm so tired of, George, is that, Trump and his supporters are a dog whistle. No, it's the liberal media that is a dog whistle nonstop. The amount of projection that goes on, it is astounding. And I'm really sick and tired of these rhinos, okay, that just, they give on every single issue, don't they?
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is. They give in to the point where they're just a blank page with nothing on it, and there's nothing to fear from them, okay? Because they shake in their boots every single time. Do you remember what was the pathetic senator's name during the Kavanaugh proceedings in the elevator or the doorway? And was it Sass, or what was it?
Oh yeah. I know who you mean.
Yeah, he was just pathetic. He was cowing. He was terrified of being yelled at.
Yeah.
I would have just said, "Get out of my office. I'm going to call the police."
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And grow up, okay? Get a day job. Be responsible.
Right. No, that's right. And of course, you had the pathetic performance of Fox News, which is essentially basically kind of a mouthpiece for the Republican establishment. They want the return of the Bushes, the good old days of the Iraq War, when Fox News was riding high. They just want, all of that to come back. So they accept all of the ridiculous, hyperbolic, hysterical claims of yesterday, insurrection, sedition, and whatnot. And there was no one voice there saying, "Hey, cool it." I mean, these are people that entered this building. It's a public building. It's not a private home. It's not a private corporation. It's a public building. It's the seat of government. They're not doing anything very much. They could easily have been taking down paintings, breaking sculptures, or whatever. They weren't doing that. They were just wandering around, wandering into this senator's office. They went into Nancy Pelosi's office, looked at her emails.
No, but you're absolutely right. Some of the footage I saw, they almost look like tourists.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
yeah.
Just looking around. Like, how did we get here? How did we get this far?
Yes. And quite exactly, I thought that as well. Like, they're looking very respectful. That's a nice sculpture. What a pretty painting.
Oh, my hope is this, and hope dies last, is that there were enough, in this day and age, everybody's running their iPhone. I mean, how can you break things down if you're trying to record everything? But anyway, there's enough of it. It's been recorded by the number of people who were there that I think that can't be prosecuted for a crime. It's a public house, so it can't be trespassing. Maybe you didn't have a pass. Okay. Well, we can go to the minutia of that later. But enough of it was recorded to get these people that were actually breaking windows and trying to force doors open. Okay, but these were one or two individuals doing. Everyone else is kind of still doing the tourist thing. What's going on? And for some of them, that you could see that there was growing concern, and particularly just before we convened here, the video of that shot that went off and killed that woman. Okay, and then that people are like, whoa, this is not what we came here for.
Right. Exactly. So when we compare the violence of this summer, buildings being burned, people being assaulted, people being dragged out of trucks, businesses being destroyed. None of that happened yesterday. And in the media that covered those riots of the summer, of course, used the wonderful euphemism, mostly peaceful. Funny, no one said that yesterday was mostly peaceful, even though it was almost entirely peaceful.
Well, you know what this is? The footage that they have of the crowds of people on the Capitol and all of that. That's for the liberal elites. That's like opening up Paul Manafort's briefcase and seeing a copy of Pravda. We got it. Okay. So what I'm saying is, it's the forensic, it's the visual. See, this is what we've been saying. This is our confirmation that these people are all violent, all seditious, Okay, and you wrap them all up into the same group. That's exactly, they were gleeful about it. It was like, finally, we can play this loop over and over and over again. Oh, and by the way, Trump's cabinet is convening to, maybe they're going to invoke the 25th Amendment. You know, our work is done, okay? I don't know if there's any truth to that story. I couldn't follow up on it, but I mean, it's almost like they're a stream of consciousness of wish fulfillment. You notice that, how they report it?
Yeah, no, no question. I mean, I suspect whatever truth there is in that story is that there may well be Trump cabinet officials who are looking for their future careers, and they want to say to whoever is to interview them, that, well, hey, I was one of the people who wanted to invoke the 25th Amendment, so I deserve this lucrative job. That's why suddenly yesterday, 3 White House staffers resigned. You know why? Well, I'm saying, you know, in your next
2 weeks
job,
before.
well, you know, I resigned in disgust from the Trump administration. So can
2
I?
weeks before, great. Another hero, another hero.
Yes.
Okay. There's a book deal in that one, George.
That's
And
it, yeah.
there's a cable contract in that one.
You resign with 2 weeks to go. Wow, you know, you're
Yeah,
really shaking the system there.
But see, this whole ideological mindset lives in the present. It's the forever present. But things are going to move on. There will be another president. Joe Biden will be inaugurated, okay? But the consequences of their behavior over the last few years, and particularly yesterday, is going to be with us forever. Because as I said, these disparate historical narratives are now set in stone. What happened in Washington, D.C., well, there'll be 2 fundamental different interpretations of it. And it's going to be validated by the rivaling tribes, okay? You see, for them, this is like, you know, the icing on the cake, you know, it's this humiliation and our justification and mutual admiration society that we've been right all along. But there's going to be a lot of people who say, we tried everything. We tried everything. We went to Washington. We listened to the president. Then we went and marched on the Capitol. And then there was a handful of people during the events that committed violence. During our legal demonstration, a cop killed one of us. Okay, and you know, and it's like, what did we do wrong? I mean, we didn't burn down Minneapolis. Okay. Right. Okay, some people broke some glasses, windows, and damaged a couple of doors. We didn't do anything more than that. And what we'll do is that loop will be played over and over again for the justification of denying many of these people of their rights. That's going to sink in and say, yeah, we're not the same. We're not, and you have pushed us so far away.
Right. No, there's no question. I mean, these will have terrible consequences. I mean, remember, you know, during the 1990s, when the Clinton administration, in a lunatic manner, stormed Waco, led to the death of 80 people, 25 children. That led to the rise of the militia movement. I mean, they say, hey, this is the way the government treats us. You know, they don't treat anyone else like this. They treat us because they regard us as scum, you know, as life that can easily be just done away with.
So is the next AG going to collate all the videos from yesterday and start prosecuting people, putting people on trial, when how many hundreds, maybe thousands of people egregiously broke the law all across the country, burned down cities, looted, assaulted people? Where's the list of those people? Okay. I mean, this disparate narrative. They say they went after 3 guys that had nothing to do with us. Okay. And then the people that burned down my city are walking away scot-free. See, that's going to sink into people. And you know, George, electoral law is complicated. I perfectly agree with that. That's why I've always said, ask any question you want, as stupid as it may sound to a professional, okay? But, you know, when you see some people going to trial and some people not going to trial, that's not difficult to understand. That's simple to understand. It's called, it is a broken justice system. We get no justice and they get their friends off. That's easy to understand.
Yeah, no, that's it, and it's an easy one to look at. You know, you have these bizarre district attorneys in Los Angeles and San Francisco who just sort of, hey, you just walk, whatever you do. And these people, I mean, if they arrest these people, and I imagine it wouldn't be too difficult to arrest them, they're going to throw them in prison and and throw away the key. I mean, that's what's going to happen. And people say, yeah, that's the way you treat us. And so, yeah, this is no question. And all of this is because the elites, and this now includes the Republican Party establishment, Mitch McConnell, and all the rest of them. They want to see the Trump people gone, purged from the party forever, humiliated, and they want to really just ram this down their throats. This is what Trumpism is about. This horrific, monstrous, terrible violence, even though there wasn't any. But that's really the aim. It's a deeply dishonest exercise, but those are the stakes that they're playing for. We want Trumpism, populism, all of that gone, extirpated from the American system.
It's a fool's errand. It's a fool's errand to try that. Okay, yeah. Because I've been constantly harping on the fact that once these Democrats have all this power, they're not going to be a juggernaut in lockstep, because people are going to start want some of the spoils. Okay, and they're going to start fighting about it. On the other hand, the Republican Party, if the McConnells of this world want to excise Trump and Trumpism from the Republican Party, well, you've got another thing coming, Mitch. Okay, you've got another thing coming.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you very much, Peter. We will, of course, be maintaining our customary laser-like focus. And remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.